Hello, and welcome to our channel again. Were you aware that an astounding 85% of men are unable to spot the small clues of adultery inside their partnerships? Unexpected, yes, but it's the harsh. In actuality, the majority of men just don't recognize the subtle but significant hints things indicate infidelity. But don't worry, I'm here to make things different today, intending to explore the psychology behind these indicators and the concealed expressions used by ladies when they're, by the end of this, being unfaithful video, you'll be equipped with the information to protect yourself and keep your relationship before we start. Yet if you're prepared, let me remind you to genuinely comprehend the female psyche and change the way you deal with love and relationships. Make sure you hit that. Click the subscribe button and press the bell to alerts, for each of my next videos is full of advice that could not only preserve your relationship whilst assisting you create deeper, more robust connections in the let's get started, gentlemen, on the future. Listen carefully, because what I'm next disclosure could unlock some of the most profound and puzzling mysteries of women's behavior. The real story can be experts at hiding their actual sentiments and goals, particularly when regarding adultery. But how do they do it? And see what symptoms you may have. Forgetting that you've most likely heard the claiming that women are adept at concealing things, and it's not merely a myth. Women tend to be much more subdued and more astute than men in terms of cheating, and many men may quit obvious indicators of infidelity. Women are typically more calculating, even transforming deceit into a creative endeavor, although the good news is that I will assist. You find those unnoticed indicators today. I'll be exposing 6 crucial terms that, when women betray, they frequently employ expressions that most men don't understand. They contain more than simply idle words, concealed meanings that convey feelings and physical separation. But before to enter the first phrase and think about this, what if your significant other has stated, what if she did some of these things, and you've been told by words something all along and you just, I may not have noticed this information. Be the distinction between living a lie and not, and discovering a reality that might alter anything. So let's get started right now. Enter and examine the opening phrase. First of all, so-and-so knows me. When your significant other starts to bring up another person, particularly in a praising or loving light, brushing is simple. At first it seems innocuous because everyone has people who encourage them and help them understanding. But what if there's deeper than the surface? If she states, I comprehend stuff like so-and-so, so well that it can appear to be a harmless observation, a straightforward recognition of another person's compassion, even if sometimes words can convey a message. This sentence may suggest something far deeper, that she is starting to establish an emotional bond with this individual, a relationship that occasionally comes before any emotional connection or physical attraction. You frequently find ons with a much more subtle and sly manner of infiltrating. The signs of infidelity are not always present. Using physical contact, it can start with the sensation of being fully comprehended by someone else who supplies connection and comfort where you might not. You can no longer imagine this situation. Partner often discusses a co-worker who first brought them up, possibly jokingly praising their humor or the ways in which they assisted her. When a project progresses, these mentions increase in frequency and change in tone. She begins with one of appreciation, comparing you to this individual who says, things like so-and-so really irritate me. This may appear to be better than you are. First benign, however, as these comments establish a consistent pattern, you start to feel something greater, something that should not be disregarded. The reality is, infidelity on an emotional level can be as harmful as physical treachery. When your partner begins establishing a strong, meaningful relationship with someone, beyond your partnership, it's It's crucial to consider what's actually occurring here. Don't ignore these modest clues like harmless jokes or straightforward relationship. When someone is attracted to someone on an emotional level, can serve as the foundation for something much more painful and harmful than you may think. Be mindful of these gentlemen. The calm, steady signals are quiet. An accumulation of adoration may serve as a prelude to a more profound separation that may tremble the basis of your partnership. Never disregard your gut and follow your intuition. What doesn't feel quite right? If this subject appeals to you, show your assistance by leaving a comment. If not a straightforward like button, click would be. Many thanks. Number 2. Rest assured, I'm only going out with some friends. Initially look at this statement. May appear to be a perfectly innocent, natural. We all require time to cultivate our personal connections, and a sound relationship makes room for such personal ties. But when you examine this, seemingly innocuous excuses can occasionally conceal a lot. More cunning when someone is concealing infidelity. They frequently depend on our may refer to regular lies as justifications for appear completely believable at first glance, but are intended to conceal actions that would ordinarily cause suspicion. Rest assured, I'm only going out with some friends may seem like nothing more than rather than just declaring one's independence, but closely monitor the frequency of this justification and any discrepancies in the information your partner gives you. If this expression spreads more widely, or if the tales surrounding these excursions turn into more ambiguous and challenging to follow, it's time to look more closely and follow your gut. Imagine this situation: your partner, who has consistently spent time with her pals, casually and without hesitation, informs you that she's having dinner with them once more. At first, there are no concerns raised by this, but as time passes, you become aware of it, occurring more frequently, with her answers growing more casual. When you inquire, whom is she meeting? Her response is ambiguous, only the girls, with no names or details. Later on, she starts to get more and more absorbed, texting someone on her phone with a degree of concealment that doesn't seem appropriate. These minor adjustments are not arbitrary. They frequently indicate that what she's saying doesn't precisely match what she's. When someone is attempting to hide these minor everyday lies, our infidelity become their shield. As they reveal more, the more they want to divert your attention. Focus away from the actual situation. Now is the time for you to pay attention to the unspoken. If her excursions are increasing in frequency and her explanations that are harder to find, don't let your suspicions fade into the backdrop. Relationships are built on trust, on openness, and when unexpected patterns appear, take note of such silent alterations that they may be attempting to inform you of something you haven't yet. I need more. I'm ready to hear. Number 3. At first look, this seems like space for me. Phrase may appear completely sensible, a straightforward plea for our personal space. Everyone has occasional cravings after all. Isn't personal space necessary? Development and introspection, but this is where, as the waters get murky, a yearning because having personal space can be beneficial in any relationship. It may also conceal something deeper, something more disturbing. When your significant other indicates that they need more space, could be more than just an appeal for being alone, could be an effort to create a wall separating you two, a subtly sneaky method of establishing distance in a formally intimate relationship. And although a good connection does need to strike a balance between unity and being independent, requires awareness of the slight change that could take place when space transforms into something completely different. Consider whether she needs space, develops into extended periods of time separate, or if she starts to back off. These could be indications that, although it's not unusual, something is amiss. someone to want to spend some time alone themselves, but when the frequency of that time apart increases and inexplicable, it's important to look at the detailed explanations for it. Take a look at this. For instance, she begins to stay out later, frequently, possibly even whole weekends, without initially giving specific justifications. You can dismiss it, thinking it's just a necessity for personal downtime, but eventually the lack of intensifies and it gets more difficult to maintain emotional detachment. Disregarding communication slows her down, looks for your company, just like she used to. The warning bells should sound at this point. Begin calling. A connection is based on physical, emotional, and when that bond starts to weaken, it's time to examine her space more thoroughly, turns into a cover to get away from you, or you should spend more time with someone else. Are no longer only observing the necessity for isolation, but the disintegration of something more profound in these times. It's need to stop and consider what's actually occurring here when the need for room stops being a breath and instead becomes a barrier. Of fresh air, it's time to focus. The lack of intimacy makes a stronger statement. More than words could convey on this subject. Speaks to you. Express your support by leaving a remark. If not, just clicking on the like button would be thank you very much. Number 4. I'm using my late shift tonight as an excuse. It is as old as time to work late tonight. It is a classic in and of itself. Nearly universally approved justification for missing work is something we all encounter after all. Meetings for deadlines and overtime are an element of modern life, which makes working at the office simple cover for people who want to give an explanation their protracted absences. But when this justification turns into a habit, brewing beneath the surface might be deeper. Surface if your significant other is unexpectedly working past their customary hours or taking on additional tasks with less. Without warning, it's time to take a work with a closer glance can be convenient. Protection, but patterns have a method of exposing the reality. The query isn't, it doesn't matter if she works late. What matters is how she frequently makes this justification and how she responds when you inquire about it. Is she defensive when you ask her about her work? Is she clear and consistent explanations, or do they start to become disorganized when work is being used as a cover by someone for? Additionally, the discrepancies in their narrative may be nuanced, but they're silently pleading for attention. Maybe she gets aloof or uncommunicative when stating that be working gradually if work comes up unexpectedly, turns into a common justification for her absences that make you feel like it's time to delve, stranger than a companion. Deeper, pay great attention to her responses when you inquire about her schedule. Does she hesitate to give specifics? Are her justifications unconvinced, or do they leave you wondering more than responses that a relationship depends on trust? And when that confidence is eroded by avoidances or contradictions, indicate that something is missing. These days, you're not merely doubting the legitimacy of an excuse. You are challenging the basis of your relationship is based on trusting your gut. If something seems strange, it most likely is, and disregarding the warning signs in relationships is frequently more harmful than the fifth truth I have to face. I believe we need some time apart. Frequently uses the phrase, need some time apart. Concealed under the pretense of reason can be an indication that something more profound is. Ben is stirred beneath the surface in healthy partnerships. Regressing to take stock and reorganize can occasionally be an essential step. However, when the suggestion is unclear, conversation, or when it appears to. Suddenly, it could not just be about need room instead. It might be an effort to establish distance without the weight of dedication or responsibility. When your spouse abruptly recommends taking some time apart, It's important to stop and consider is this request a considerate one? Request for reflection, or is it in reality as a means of exploration and escape something that is not contained within the friendship, without the burden of your presence, without openness or clarity? Talk about the problems in your relationship that this expression may conceal with ease. An urge to go for someone or something. Otherwise, you won't ever know if this idea abruptly comes up with no earlier indications of issues, or talk about your future together. Now is the moment to go farther while space permits. Sometimes the goal can be healthy. The most important thing behind it is that she, sincerely looking for solitude to think about the partnership, or is this the starting a silent departure as a means of testing? Perhaps the seas of independence, relationships are based on without you. Relationship trust and the bravery to face obstacles together when that bond begins to weaken as space starts to replace the time spent together. It's not longer just because of the distance between them. About the implications of that period for the upcoming. If you think the recommendation isn't based on introspection, but avoidance. Pay special attention to the unspoken message. In its purest form, time away should never serve as a justification for slipping away without returning, unless the distance obviously marks the start of an irreversible, you deserve the sixth separation. When a lady is superior to me declares, you deserve someone, the phrase better than me is rarely used. Prepared casually, it is frequently laden with emotional burden and a shroud of guilt. On the surface, regret or even sadness could seem self-deprecating, expression that indicates she's struggling with her alleged shortcomings. Yet, below the surface, this term might act as a subliminal preamble to anything deeper, something more sinister. It's how she, getting you ready for the potential separation, lessens the impact of what this assertion might be false in the future. Merely regarding her sentiments of being unworthy. Yet it can also be a cunning deflection, through conversational focus on her weaknesses or flaws. She redirects, diverting focus from the actual problem at hand, the cracks inside the connection itself in certain situations. This expression is almost silent, unconsciously acknowledging that something has already left. It could be an indirect recognition of her involvement, either physical or emotional, with someone else, or even having an affair with, may convince herself that if she can, you think that she's the bad one, sufficient to in some way excuse her behavior. As if the harm is caused by her shortcomings, she has caused less serious harm, but what this expression is unable to conceal the painful reality that her actions are damaging she is aware of the connection you share. Deep within her conscience, she recognizes the consequences of her decisions, and by asserting that you deserve a better person, she's expressing her sadness at realizing perhaps she's let you down in ways that cannot reverse. This statement is not only it's a mirror of her self-doubt. Sad reminder that occasionally we try to relieve ourselves of responsibility by placing blame elsewhere, even if that entails shattering the heart that trusted us in interpersonal relationships. Comprehending these expressions is not only hearing words is what it's about. Focusing on the deeper, unsaid currents that are frequently overlooked, these words are more powerful than you may think. Recognize that they are concealed. Subtle indications, calls for assistance, or even private admissions. Feeling guilt while paying close attention to empathy and consciousness can be the distinction between protecting what you treasure it or watch it disappear before you even understand what's taking place. Trust when your intuition whispers that don't dismiss the fact that anything is wrong. Your intuition is attempting to direct you in the direction of clarity and the truth. There are indications. All you have to do is open them, your heart and eyes to observe them. If you feel that this speaks to you, Then make sure to strike a spark of recognition. Join this by clicking the subscribe button. Community in which we explore the complexity of romantic relationships and recognizing the complex beauty. I wish to understand the mystery of the feminine psyche. Hear your opinions and experiences. Post them in the comments section below, since this trip is being navigated by all of us, learning, developing, and supporting one another. Together, we can support one another along the path. Transform these realizations into potent. Don't let this moment pass without taking action. Make it the beginning of a more in-depth comprehension and a closer bond.